time for the one and the only show. It's the Luke Howard Show. So please welcome Luke Howard. Thank you. I love saying that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, the 24th of June today. Yes, it is the 24th of June. Hope everybody is well, and I hope your day, of course, has started up to be very well as well. For those of you who don't know who I am the one and the only Luke Howard, and I do present a radio show 5 days a week, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m-ish till 10:45-ish. So, we've got a really good show today coming up. We've got some great tunes, great entertainment and great chats. And tomorrow or Friday on the show, as I said the other day, we will be interviewing Pierce Bloomfield as well. We'll let you know about that. So I want to start off with a bit of a moan today about a video that went viral on social media. And they're talking about tea. And I did say yesterday that I'm going to talk about making tea today on the show. And, well, this American lady from America, she did a TikTok, which is a famous thing on social media, and she did a British tea tutorial. So let's take a little listen to this, and I'll have my say about this after this.
Hey guys, so I got a lot of questions after my last video, and everyone wanted to see me make hot tea or British tea, so today we are going to make tea. So fill our mug with water, put it in the microwave, set it for a minute, pour the milk in, drop your tea bag in, add the sugar, give it a little stir, and that's how you make hot tea.
It's basically an American version of our tea, of course. I've never seen anything so pedantic in my life. Why would you want to put cold water in a cup and then put it in the microwave, and then you might as well just do it over the kettle. Then you put the milk in, then you put the tea in. And I just think it's an American version. And there was also here is right. Listen to this. This is a British one. Okay, this is how you make it the British way.
I've just put the kettle on. In the previous episode of Anglophenia, we shared some of the moments in history that made tea an integral part of British culture. Now, I'm not saying that Americans don't love tea. You do, just not as we Brits know it. For starters, 85% of tea enjoyed in America is iced. In Britain, however, we need something a little warmer and stronger to get us through those cloudy, rainy, blustery, and generally grey days. So join me as I show you how to make a proper cup of tea the British way. How to make the perfect cuppa. Brits take making a cup of tea pretty seriously. So much so that George Orwell even wrote an essay on how to make the perfect cuppa. Recent research says that in order to make the perfect cup of tea, you should use freshly boiled water, which in the UK usually comes from an electric kettle, like this one. And that your tea should steep for around 2 to 5 minutes.
And you've got to have a tag.
Personal preference. Also, we put milk in our tea. The milk in tea conundrum. Milk first, then tea, or tea, then milk. With 98% of us drinking our tea with milk, this is a pretty crucial point, and a question that has troubled our nation for a really long time. But don't panic. Scientists at University College London have finally worked it out. They say that tea made in a cup should have the milk added after the water, so that it doesn't interfere with the brewing process. But if the tea is made in a pot, then the milk should be added first. Finally, I've had so many sleepless nights over that one. Which reminds me, what's your favourite cup of tea?
Oh.
Whilst green and herbal teas have seen
they're great as well.
In the
Yeah,
UK,
they are.
some of
Yeah,
us, like myself,
but I
prefer a
just
cup of Earl Grey.
yeah.
You should usually expect to be offered a cup of English
Breakfast tea.
which is
Yeah,
a
well, of
blend
course you
black
should.
teas
Yeah.
and remains the most popular. We're also rather smitten with tea bags when making tea at home, although you will find loose leaf tea served in restaurants and hotels. Making a cup of tea isn't as simple as you'd think, and you should be prepared to answer some of the following questions. Do you like a builder's brew? That's extra strong tea with milk and sugar. It's called this because it's how all builders and tradesmen, in fact anybody doing anything to your house, takes their tea. Maybe don't offer one to the burglar though. Maybe you're a white without kind of chap, meaning milk but no sugar. Do you prefer your tea loose leaf or in a tea bag? Dunking. Dunking is the art of dipping a biscuit, which is what we call a less sweet cookie like this one, into
To dunk
tea.
or not
Recent
to
research
dunk?
has found
That is the
best
question.
dunking biscuit is a rich tea biscuit, and that the chocolate ones are even better. Personally, I love a digestive biscuit, and yes, despite the off-putting name, these are actually really rather delicious and brilliant for dunking.
Oh, I like doing that.
That is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And trust me, American cookies don't work in this scenario. They literally crumble under the heat, so don't even go there. Whether it's black, green or herbal, loose leaf or in a tea bag, hot or iced, with milk or without, 3 sugars or none, I think we can all agree that the best cup of tea is when it's made by someone else. Oh, thank you. For me. We'd love to know how you take your tea. Let us know in the comments.
There we go.
or tweet at
So,
Anglo
you've
Video.
just seen the video about how to make it our way. And of course, I mean, I have about 20,000 different cups of different ones a day. So I know everything about this. But I would just put it in and then I stir mine anti-clockwise. I've even watched a video about how to make it before. When you want to watch a video about how to make one, everyone knows how to make one. But I have seen a video before about how to make it, and it's actually quite a nice, lovely thing to have. I love it, absolutely lovely, especially to start your day. As soon as I get up, the first thing I go to is the kettle, put it on, get the tea bag, done, put it in, and then pour the water in, and then stir it for a couple of minutes, anti-clockwise. Don't stop for ages, and then I put the milk in last, and then that's when it turns weak. But I do make it. That is the way I make it. I might later on maybe make tea the British way, the American way, but I don't really do it that way. I prefer to do it the way that I like to do it, and and that is how I like to make my cup of tea. So, okay, let's move on then. Let's move on after that, because I want to talk about India that warns shopping centres that may close as funding takes continue. Now, India, the UK's best-known shopping centre chain, is warning of financial troubles that could see entire sites shut. Now, the company has appointed administrators KPMG as a contrary in case financial restructuring talks with lenders fail. Now, India warns that if that happens, it will have to give KPMG funds for certain services or see the centres shut. Now, it has 17 UK outlets, including Lakeside in Essex, as we all know, Glasgow's Braehead, and Manchester's Trafford Centre. India has until Friday to sort out a new financial footing. Now, the company said that in an event that India Properties PIC is unable to reach a standstill, it is likely that it and of course certain other central entitles will fail into administration. Now, if it had happened, the various group companies would have to put money into the administrator, and if the administrator is not pre-funded, then there is a risk that centres may have to close for a period. India had been struggling before this coronavirus pandemic to fill outlets with some centres' sites, and had heavy debts, and said in March that it was in talks with lenders about new funding. Now, on Tuesday, India said that notwithstanding the progress made, and it had appointed KPMG to plan for administration. And since the coronavirus lockdown, insurance centres have been particularly shut. This is with only essential stores remaining open. So the company had about 60% of shopping centre staff and about 20% of head office employees on furlough. The firm's financial woes include making a loss of $2 billion back in 2019, and of course failing earlier this year to raise $1 billion in a new funding, and having a debt of $5 billion. Now, the collapse and contraction of high street retailers in the face, of course, of all opening back up. We do talk about this quite a lot on the show. I like to talk about it quite a lot on the show, in the face of rising costs and the seemingly ever increasing online shopping trend. And already seen retailers closing outlets and leaving a number of landlords, such as India, struggling to fill empty space, and many among the remainder are finding it harder to meet their rent payments. The company is well down on normal income levels. India's latest update on rent collection, and said it had received only 40% of rental and service charge income for the first quarter of the year. It had moved from quarantine currently rent collection to more flexible arrangements with shop owners. Interior has been attempting to sell shopping centres though to raise cash and has sold off its outlet in Zugarin in Spain, and it still has 3 more in that country. So Interior's UK shopping centres are as follows is Braehead in Glasgow, Broadmarsh in Nottingham, Chapelfield in Norwich, Derby, Eden Square, Newcastle, Lakeside, Essex, Merry Hill in West Midlands, Merion's Creek, Gateshead, Milton Keynes, Potter's, Stoke-on-Trent, Trafford Centre, Manchester, Uxbridge, Victoria Centre, Nottingham, Watford, Centres run as joint ventures Manchester, Arundel, St David's, Cardiff, and the Mall Cribs Causeway. And of course, they've also got 3 centres in Spain as well. So we will leave that story there because I now want to talk about what we're talking about now. Another story in the paper. We'll talk about a story in the paper now, then, shall we? Because I want to talk about how this is play bank pumps. As we said, we are going to talk about this today on the show. And okay, so the Bank of England is pushing another 100 billion into the economy, despite signs to hit from the coronavirus crisis, and maybe less severe than first feared. The members of the bank's Monetary Policy Committee (MPC) voted 8-1 to the top up to the 200 billion announced in March, taking the total size of the quarantine's easing QE scheme to 745 billion. Interest rates will held at an all-time low of 0.1%, following speculation that they would be pushed below equality for the first time ever. Now, the extra QE, which sees the bank buy government bonds from investors, it comes after Governor Andrew Bailey promised more action to hair Britain's financial naughty-vies. The economy shrunk by a record 20.4% in April, but the bank said that the fall in GDP between April and June this year may not be as bad as forecast in May, and thanks to the recovery in consumer spending and the housing market, it now believes that GDP may fall about 20% in the second quarter compared to the last 3 months of 2019, well below its earlier prediction of a 27% plunge. The improved forecast prompt of MPC member Andy Handley's, the bank's chief economist, to vote against QE. In minutes of the meeting, the bank said that the emerging advance suggested that the fall in the UK GDP in the second quarter would be less severe and then set out in the May report. Although stronger than expected, about the recovery through after, it warned that there was a risk of higher and more presidential employment following the crisis, even with the relaxation of some COVID-related restrictions on economic activity. A degree of pre-century behaviour by households and businesses is likely to persist, it said. Now, parents want flexible work to go out on after this lockdown, because most working parents and carers want to maintain flexible hours after the lockdown. A study finds that 4 in 5 are balancing childcare and work at home and want it to become the norm, says the charity Working Families. Chief Executive Jane Van ZYL said that we can't go back to a time where long hours and being in last person in the office are seen as a mark of success. So at the moment, it's sort of slowly getting back to there, really. And almost a third questioned as their boss plans to allow more home working. Okay, so there we go. And we'll leave it one there. So one more story then. Just 42% of bosses top up wages for furloughed staff. Let's talk about furloughed people again then, shall we? Because fewer than half of businesses using the government's furlough scheme are topping up to employers and pay above the 80% guaranteed by taxpayer figures that show in the final 2 weeks of May, just 42% of firms continue to cover the gap, and despite 79% continuing to trade, the Office for National Statistics have found that around 30% of the workforce were on the coronavirus job restriction scheme, and it found that matching with this is similar data from the government. On Tuesday last week, the Treasury said that 9.1 billion jobs had been covered by the scheme, which is expected to cost around 60 million, or in other words 60 billion, by the time it closes in October this year. Now, under the measures announced by the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, the government covers 80% of furloughed workers wages up to £2,500 a month from August this year. Now, employers will have to start covering national insurance and pension contributions along with the contribution towards wages in September, and the ONS survey, which runs until June, found that they were continuing to trade with wholesale and retail, the strongest sectors. There we go. So, let's talk about one more story then, because Donald Trump's attempt to end legal protections of 650,000